So I think we're all feeling this pinch right now, right? It just feels like rent's going up, price of food is increasing, and just getting harder and harder to get by. And every year, even if you get a salary increase, it just feels harder than it was last year. And really, what I'm going to show you is I think that inflation is the main factor for this, but I also believe that really that this is not going to get fixed in the future if we don't change something. And I will show you what we can change. It's a simple pattern that can be applied. That's a simple function. And no one has really done this before. And what we're doing is we've been sort of piloting this for the past 5 years to see if it works. And really, all we're trying to do now is we're trying to show that over time, it's very difficult in the beginning, but after a certain period of time, this will work. So what we're going to show you is if you take a look at the properties of money, right? So there's a bunch of properties that are very well known. And I feel like one missing function here, or one missing property is yield, right? And really, the reason that this is missing is we can see that really what people want to do with their money is they want to invest it when they have a bunch of it. They want to take $100 and get more than $100 back over a certain period of time. So the problem is that kind of a system is that it doesn't destroy money, right? So money is not lost. Money is you're just gaining more, right? So you're increasing your position, but if you take account inflation, which erodes your value, really what you're trying to do is you're trying to say, hey, I want to just get more money back than the inflation. And the problem is just investments as a traditional vehicle is the whole concept of, hey, I want to take $100 and get more than $100 back, is that you're not really doing anything with that $100, right? So you're sort of keeping it somewhere, and that place will eventually, you're trying not to lose your money, right? Because usually the higher the return on investment is, the more risk there is, right? So imagine if you take $100 and you get $80 back, which is pretty common in traditional stock investments. That whole system is just flawed, right? So what we're proposing is instead of taking $100 and getting $100 back, what you can do, imagine if you have this option. You can say, hey, what if I destroy $100, right? I completely throw it into the wind, but in return, you will get a drip of yield back, right? And the drip is dynamic, so it's not hard coded. It's not set anywhere, but it's controlled by the markets. And then we take the system, and we don't give it to like a central bank, because then it's centralized and people can cheat the system. Instead, we take it and we put it on a decentralized system that's immutable, so it cannot be changed. Like no one has access to it, no one controls it. It's running by itself, and it cannot be taken down. And then we basically put it on Ethereum, right? So what we do is we basically create a smart contract that says there'll be a central bank that is decentralized, that is controlled by the people, and is going to mint a certain amount of tokens, and those tokens can be distributed based on the people that destroy the money. But to keep it simple, you have $100. Instead of taking $100 and investing it, what you're doing is you're destroying that money, right? Forever. So you're losing $100 immediately. And instead, in return, you will get a small percentage of yield back. And the cool part about this yield is that it's permanent. And you can also give this account to your kids in the future, for example. So, even if it's a very small percentage of yield over time, the real question is, would this kind of a system beat traditional investment, right? Are you ever going to, are you ever going to get that $100 back? So that is kind of the thing that we've built, and really I want to show you some numbers here. So if we take a look at at this, specifically the red one, this is our latest token utilizing the system. So we have basically three different ones: the orange, the teal, and the red one. And they're all slightly different, but they're all using the same system, right? It's all using this the same idea, the same pattern, and they're all just slightly different. But the two really main important things in our system is how much liquidity do we have. It's a cool idea, but if you have $100 in liquidity, no one's really going to do anything. It's not very attractive for anyone. And the second part is, what's the inflation, right? So, we started the year with 700% inflation in the system, and now we're down to 120%, and next year is going to be around 50%, right? And for us, what we're really trying to show is that this system is sustainable long term, but the most pain will be felt in beginning, right? Because inflation is very high in beginning, but it only keeps going down, which is unlike a normal system where inflation is pretty sticky and it really just keeps going up, right? And in our system, what you can do is you can destroy the monetary supply to get yield, right? And I think this is really the missing part, right? This is the missing part of investments, because in investments, really what you're trying to say is like, hey, I just want to make my money work for me, right? And in our system, what we're saying is like, you can make your money work for you by destroying it, because I think long-term yield is way more interesting than short-term liquidity, right? You have $100 and then you go buy 10 sandwiches, right? That's it. Your money is gone forever. But in our system, you destroy $100, and then if you can get one sandwich every year for the rest of your life, why wouldn't that be the case, right? That would be very interesting. And really, what we're trying to do is it's almost like a market for yield. How much is yield really worth? Like, how much are people willing to pay for a percentage? So, because normally, if you think about the way we think about staking, right? Everyone says like, oh, the APY on staking is let's say 5% on Ethereum. It's not really 5%, right? Because the supply increases by 5%, and then you get 5% more tokens. But if you think about it, inflation was also 5%. So, it's like, yeah, you have 5% more tokens, but, you get diluted by 5% as well. So in reality, nothing has happened. So that's the the key thing that we've been trying to solve. So yeah, really, that's the core thing that we're pushing for, is that the missing functionality of money is yield. It's not programmed in. You don't have this option, right? Imagine if an average Joe, they don't have to think like where to invest their money. Like you said, do I invest it in real estate, tech, banks? Where do I put my money? Imagine if you always had a choice on the spot. You can like, I'm just going to destroy this money and I will get yield instead, long term, and I don't have to think about, right? And every time I have a little bit of money, I'm just going to go and get more yield and get more yield. And then eventually, now, your yield is actually pretty lucrative, right? You're all of a sudden, it becomes like your job. Or even if, you can start, think of it simple. Would you want a cup of coffee for the rest of your life, right? And the answer would probably be, yeah, that sounds amazing, right? And you start with a cup of coffee, and then maybe, oh, now it's a free, and like my Netflix subscription is covered, right? And now, oh, maybe I'm covering a portion of my rent, and then it's like, oh, maybe I'm covering my car payments. And that's a cool part of about yield, is that it's compounded, right? And in our system, we have way more functionality than that. Like, for example, you can take your yield and automatically recompound it. So you don't have to think about, like, you will get yield, but imagine if you don't really need this money right now, you can recompound it and get even more yield. So your yield gets more yield, And it's a really cool system, honestly. So yeah, it's like we built it, it's running, and really what we're waiting for is just to see at what point and how much liquidity do we really need to make this lucrative for for the normal financial markets, right? So we're looking for people to trade it, and when that happens, the system will really shine, right? Because when you have inflation and prices only going down, it's not very interesting. But when you have inflation and the markets can sustain, then it becomes very interesting, because if the price increases and inflation decreases and your value is only going up, well, guess what? Your yield is increasing as well. So not only do you get yield, but your yield starts increasing. And then if you can if you recompound your yield, then it's also, it's like a triple system where your yield is getting more yield and then the prices are increasing as well. So really that's the thing we're trying to show is like, hey, the prices can increase in the system. And when we can prove that, I think this is the ultimate money, right? Because it's all the properties of money, but one additional functionality, which is yield. So you always have, you always have an option on the spot to make it work for you. So yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. It's it's a missing piece. It's a missing piece of it's a missing piece of money. Is it's right here. Imagine if there was a seventh point yield, right? And the only reason why we couldn't do it before is because if you have a centralized system like USD, who controls that? How do you prove that someone destroyed $1,000? Is this going to be written in some database? Okay, well, someone can just go and modify this database, right? Or someone can counterfeit a bunch of money and destroy fake money. This is why it doesn't work in a central system. So it's missing. That's why money is broken, right? This is why it feels like you can never get ahead. Is because there is no yield, right? And the only way to get ahead, if you think about it, is take risks, right? So you can take low risks, get some return on your investment using bonds and ETFs. And then as you're gaining more risk, you can get higher returns. But guess what? You can also lose, right? And in our system, you lose $100 right away. Like you don't have to think about it. Yeah, your money's gone. But you get yield, right? And how much is that yield worth, over 10, 20, 50 years? That's the question, right? And then you can pass it down to your kids as well. So to me, that's the ultimate test, right? How much is yield worth? And yeah, that's what we're trying to find out. So yeah, I hope it makes sense. I think this topic is still pretty complicated, and I just wanted to show you guys that there's people like me that are working on this problem, and I think inflation and it's all solvable. And really, what we're really trying to do here is showcase that smart contracts can be used for more, and you can create very interesting solutions to problems that were not really possible to be solved before. And that's our project. So liquidity, yeah. If you guys want to check it out, there's all the links in the article here. So thanks everyone. Have a good